Florida Congresswoman and member of the Trump Assassination Task Force, Laurel Lee, joins me. Good evening. And the first thing that strikes me is, the sheriff talked about we've lost our common sense, and holy crap, I think to myself, why was the guy released on a $5,000 bail before we fully examined this? Usually they had like 40, even if he's something else must be going on in his head, they have 48-hour holds to see whether he's got mental problems.
Amen, Greta. And you and I both spent enough time in the criminal justice system to know that a judge should be able to consider danger to the community and risk of flight before releasing a suspect on bond. And here we know this individual is reported to have multiple fake IDs, passports, loaded firearms. So at a minimum, holding this person in custody to give law enforcement the opportunity to actually do a thoughtful assessment. Who is he? Where does he come from? Why does he have these things with him? Are the things that he's saying correct? Can they be verified? But that is really one of the things that is most harmful about bail systems that don't work and that take discretion away from judges, is that when it's a case like this that really could be dangerous, the judge doesn't have the authority to hold the person in custody to do that kind of investigation.
Well, I've raised some pretty crazy defenses in my life as a criminal defense lawyer because I didn't have a whole lot else going for me. But the idea that he blames California, I mean, that's one that is a far stretch to me for him violating the law. But the multiple passports really is that, if that isn't a big sign, as you mentioned, I mean, in different names. I mean, who issued these passports to him? What security? When I apply for a passport, I have to go through so many hoops, and they recognize me standing in line.
That's right. And so just by itself, when you look at what this person is alleged to have with him, to have in the car, there's definitely a story here that we need to understand. The good news is that this time the system worked. Local law enforcement identified this person. They saw that the license plate wasn't right. They stopped him. They investigated, and they kept him from actually entering the rally, which is exactly what we're hoping to see at all of these events around the country, is that the screening coming in is going to keep someone who has suspicious things or might be a danger, keep that person from entering the rally and causing a threat to anyone else who might be there, and certainly to President Trump or any other Secret Service protectees. So, like any time, sometimes the best work of law enforcement, the most important work of law enforcement, is what they're doing to prevent something from happening and prevent something from going wrong. Oftentimes, the public doesn't even hear about it. But here, the system seems to have worked. So that is very important for all of us.
Well, I don't know if the guy is innocent or not. I mean, he may have a legitimate legal right to the firearms. Okay, give him that one. The multiple passports, that can't possibly be. Fake license plate, that's not good as well. But so now he gets released on the $5,000 bond that he made. So we have two choices. We can either ignore him, or we can spend resources that we don't have, like Secret Service and everybody, to follow him, because he certainly has raised the red flag. So those are our options because he's out there now.
Well, that's right. And that's another reason why it's much safer and easier when somebody is the appropriate case, right? Not everybody. Some people don't have these kinds of serious things. They might not be a flight risk. They might not seem like a danger. And so putting someone like that out on bond is fine and appropriate. But in a case like this, where clearly this person has the ability, the passports, the ability to potentially flee or to be a threat, holding that person would have allowed law enforcement time, even just a few days, to do an investigation of who he is, to look into the things that he's saying in his own video statement, verify whether they're true, look at his history, his thoughts, what's he doing online, who's he communicating with, all of the things that might paint that important picture of whether he's an ongoing danger or a threat. Who is he, and what are his intentions going forward? So absolutely, if he were still in custody, that would be a lot easier for law enforcement to do.
I don't know how far your jurisdiction goes on your task force, but I think that, I think it's fair to include this in sort of your orbit of what to investigate on the Trump assassination stuff, to find out, what we do once someone's been arrested with very peculiar things, loaded firearms, multiple passports, fake license plates. I mean, it's certainly, obviously they didn't charge him as attempted assassination. I have no idea what he's up to, but I certainly think it's within your purview to do some snooping around to find out what's going on and what we're doing now that he's been released, because he might be a menace, but we don't know.
Well, and I will tell you, this is a task force. Our number one objective is to make sure that the president is being kept safe and that the other Secret Service protectees are being kept safe. So I know we will all be very interested in who this person is, what was happening there with, more broadly, we have been looking at things like how is the perimeter established? What kinds of checks are happening before somebody can enter one of these rallies, and really just ensuring that there is an adequate detail, an adequate protective detail to handle this important work. So I know we are already very actively investigating the original assassination attempt in Butler, the second that happened in Florida, which is hard to believe, and now here we are with a third very concerning incident, thankfully that was stopped before he ever got into a rally. But absolutely, the task force just wants to get to the bottom of this and make sure that the people who come to these rallies and the protectees are safe.
Well, my mother was profoundly superstitious. She said everything happened in threes. Maybe this is the third, and maybe we're done now, but we'll see. Congresswoman Laurel Lee, thank you very much.
Great to see you, Greta.